Good morning, and we're going to look at a freeware add-on which is based on the standard default Laminar Research 747-400, and that is an extended range mod by Notchmaster. You can download this on the forum in the usual places, and it is quite a large download that you get, and in that zip file, it's the version 3, you're going to see two entries because he has made a variant for the General Electric and for the Pratt & Whitney. Okay, and yeah, what they have changed is the aircraft characteristics, like how much fuel it uses, and probably also some modifications to the flight model. There's some PBR texturing, I think, stuff like that, and yeah, there's a number of small modifications, and especially sound. There is an improved sound kit. Now there are basically two mods for the default 747 out there. One of them is kind of work in progress, and he also makes some changes, a little bit of sound modding and stuff like that, but relies more on other packets as well. Whereas this one here is a complete thing. You download it. It's about a gigabyte of download, and you do have the result, the end result, without having to consolidate from several sources. And I decided to go for this one and test this one because it's the easier of the two to install, and it looks like it is a pretty round package. Okay, so that's why I'm currently now running with the Notchmaster mod for the default 747. Now the default 747 is from Laminar. It comes with XP11, and I'm not sure who actually did it for them. I read something like FJSim, so FlyJSim, the guy who's doing the FlyJSim stuff. I'm not sure about that. Who has actually done the model and all? It is a nice addition. It's as always good when you have default aircraft that cover certain categories of aircraft. The thing with the 747 is they have improved a lot compared to XP11, and we will see the cockpit in a moment. The outside modeling, yeah, it is default stuff, so don't get overly excited at what you may or may not get. This is actually it's a modded texture with yeah, it's looking pretty dirty. Yeah, but I quite like it because the 747s, a lot of them are actually quite old now. Many of them have decades under their belt, and airlines are successively now replacing them either with the Dash 8, which is the more modern variant of a 747, or increasingly they're moving away from the 747. So it looks like the 747 has reached its usefulness. One of the reasons why airlines are replacing the 747 is the 4 engines. That's nowadays, with the rising fuel prices and the obvious price hike that fuel will take in the next decade or so, due to shortages, and let's face it, we have jumped over the peak of crude oil consumption, and that will also have an impact on general prices, not only on fuel for your car but also for airplanes. So it has become crucial when operating that you reduce your fuel use per head, per passenger, drastically. And the 747 comes from a time when this wasn't a factor. So you have 4 engines. 4 engines, they do use far more fuel because just pure out of the fact that 4 engines are running, you need more fuel. So airlines are starting to replace 4 engine airplanes. The A340 has also seen the end. It's not going to be produced anymore. I think they have stopped production already. And also the A380 is going to see the end of production in about 2 years or so. That doesn't mean that they disappear immediately. It will take some time before 4-engine aircraft will be gone, or at least mostly gone. But yeah, it's kind of the end that has been, yeah, for 4-engine. So we will be seeing less and less of them in real life. And yeah, I'm going to look at this modification today and just to see will that make a difference. And I have to tell you that the great airplane that they put in here, and it's fantastic, and I'm not really complaining, but with many Laminar default aircraft, they brought them to a point where from the looks and all that you say wow, but when you fly with them, the wow disappears a little bit. And the 747 is one of these. The whole flight model, that hasn't really been, let's say they haven't spent that much time on it, because obviously there are other priorities when you do a simulator like X-Plane, so you can't really spend a lot of resources on creating a perfect aircraft. Therefore, we have standard aircraft that are, yeah, they're okay, but they're not great. And then we have the likes of Zibo and all the other Audiobird and all these guys that have spent numerous hours on the Zibo mods for the 737. Unfortunately, I think there is a project that attempted to do something similar with the 747, but I don't really see any progress there. It kind of has gone a little bit under the horizon, and I'm not sure where, if and so on. So I looked around what modifications, sort of small modifications, do we have in order to make the 747 fly a little bit better, for example, because it isn't really very well, the flight model. And that's what I came up with, at least one of the two options, and I think it's the most comprehensive one. The cockpit hasn't been modded as far as I know. So I'm just checking through my settings. I haven't really programmed a lot of keys for my views yet, because this is pretty new. So the cockpit is Laminar, and I'm not sure if Notchmaster has actually made any kind of modification to it. Couldn't tell you. So we do have the default. We do have the default Laminar. Yeah, the speed brake is a little bit in the way. Thank God you can pull it out. So it's the default Laminar FMC. Let me store this view while I'm at it. And let's see which of my other views. So we have the pilot's view. I have the head left, runs right, or right and left. And now we've got that one. And usually what I do also is all right, sort of the window view. Then I also program a camera here at the rudder, at the fin. So that's control 1 for me. And then I usually also do some, the external views I seem to have done already. Very nice. Okay. And the other view that I haven't done yet, which I like to use, is this here. Sort of have a side view. So I think that should do for the moment. That's something you need to do every time you have a new aircraft that you haven't used yet and you haven't defined the preference set yet for. And yeah, there's also a cabin, and I just realized I will most likely have to do something with my, yeah, so my trim is, yeah, my trim is actually correct. So everything is correct. My joysticks are properly set up. I might have to do some response curve modification, we shall see. Okay, dokie. So, let's see. That's the cockpit, and that is first class, I would think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are probably default, coming with a default aircraft. There's a toilet. I don't think you can open that. So it's very basic. You don't really get a very accurate representation of the cabin, but yeah. So I guess we can see where that heads to. What happens if I go down? Can I go through the floor? No, I can't. So I'm not sure if there is a cabin below this thing here. All right, but we're not really that interested anyway. Okie dokie. So let's start by turning on the battery. We do have external power available. I think that comes automatically with this aircraft. You don't need to do much. Go to put this on and activate the utility bus, and the APU I'm going to bring up. These are most likely for nothing because we're using the default FMC from Laminar, so chances are there isn't really a lot of things happening. All right. While I'm talking to you, I'm also programming my keys for the Go flight. And since this is a default aircraft, I'm pretty sure we can use the default settings for X-plane. Okay. I'm going to put the auxiliary fuel pump, hydraulic pump on. I'll leave the other ones off for the moment. And let's see, what else have we got here? Yeah, let's actually turn on some lights. I'm going to turn on also the dome light, cockpit, overhead panel, aisle, and panel flat. All of these you can actually turn. You can even turn on the storm light. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to the dark, and we can have a look at what this airplane looks in the dark. So that's with all the flood stuff on. Let's turn the dome light off. Okay. So that's the overhead panel. There is another flood. It's not quite clear which of these do what. Let's see. That's the glare shield. And that is, I don't know what this actually does. Yeah. Then let's put this into the auto position. This is, yeah, there's no other light switches. It is a little bit bright. That might actually come from the lights outside, because so I'm not sure that. I don't think that really comes from. Here's the panel stuff. Yeah, very nice. And I suppose we need to probably do the same thing on the other side. Yep, they have been coded individually. So once we're away from the outside lights, this should get a bit darker, and yeah, this is actually quite pleasing. I can't tell you now which of that is default and which of that has been modified by Notchmaster. Couldn't tell you. Sorry, that was a tool that wants to make noise. Right. So let's go back into the brightness. All right, because we want to do a flight. Now there is this effect here, something that I don't really like, because it doesn't help when you have this. Okay, it takes away from the readability of the aircraft's displays. That's just the way it is. It probably will change when we move the aircraft and have lights and shadows and stuff. I would prefer if things like this aren't done, having milky glasses, because it just doesn't help. And I want to fly the aircraft. I don't want to look at reflections and stuff like that. So maybe that can be turned off. I don't know. But I would prefer if that looks like this. As you can see, it's much better. Okay, so let's see what other things should we turn on. That's the landing altitude. That's they're all in the automatic position. Then, yep, the packs are currently off. And we do not have yet, I'm activating the isolation, but we haven't yet got anything that produces. So let's have a quick check how much fuel we have on board. 120, oh, this is actually a lot. This is an awful lot of fuel. Let's see, what's our weight? We are really heavy at the moment, so I'm going to reduce the fuel weight to, this is in pounds, 80,000 pounds is about, yeah, roughly 40 tons. It's even far too much. So let's go for about 60. This is about 30 tons plus minus, which gives us sufficient flight time for our test flight that we're going to do. All right. That makes the aircraft a little bit lighter, because otherwise we are really heavy. Okay, so let's see, what else have we got to do? We should turn on enough light, and I'm going to start the APU now. Try. And oops. Yeah, and as you can see, this is instantaneous, I think. Ah, we can hear something. Yep. So that's the new sound kit. Very nice. So here are, by the way, the displays for down here. I haven't got a profile for little texture extractor, or the X texture extractor. Therefore, yeah, I can only show you this stuff. Here, electric is empty, fuel, we can see ECS is empty, hydraulics is empty, so a lot of the displays. We have one door open, yeah. Doors do open. This is door number 2, by the way. Door number 1 is up there. Here, this is the emergency exit. So I've defined some keys for door number 1. But this model definitely opens doors. Yeah, that's a pity. It's a pity that this has to be like that. You can see what I mean, I think. Okay, so IPU is available. I can activate it. I'm going to disconnect the external power, and that means we should also be having equipment cooling normal. And I don't know. I'm just going to turn these things on. Not manual, we leave that. What's this here? Cargo fire forward and aft. Auto start, yeah. Okay, this is the fuel. You know what? Let's just turn this stuff on. I don't think we have anything in the center tanks, and yeah. And you know what? I'm going to turn on all the knobs now, because they wouldn't work anyway. This is not a proper 747 procedure, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not going to bother now too much. What about this here? The EEC needs to be on, so this is in normal mode. I'm not sure that is overly important in the default 747. Right, what have we got here? So there's the radios. put that on Unicom. Something I got myself used to do, so that when I'm on VATSIM or something, that we can. Yeah, there's nothing here with the weather radar. That's all not coded. So some code. We're on standby. That's okay. And yeah. All right. That's the parking brake. Flaps. Okay. Now let's go through the route. I'm going to set up the route from the start. You go on flight plan. This is also not the default Boeing. This is default Laminar. Echo Delta. Clear. Echo Delta Delta Mike. To Echo Delta Delta Mike. I'm not going to use a company route. This is test flight number 1. So, execute. We're going to fly Akini and Ostis. Alright, then we're going to use the departure, which is the, I think, runway 08 left, anchor 8 Quebec. And we're going to use the arrival. Here I think I need to first pick the arrival. It's the BAMTA 3 Alpha for 08 left. It's the ILS 08 left, and we're going to attempt to come in via MIQ, Mike. Execute. So, we can see this is, by the way, default display. There's nothing you can do about that. That's just the way it is. You need to live with the microscopic labels that the default navigation display offers us. Maybe someone will be getting the Zibo treatment here for the 747 done. At the moment, I haven't found anything, so I don't think that it is available. Yeah, the display 1500, we are slightly under 1500, so I think we are fine because it's 1460 or so in Munich, so we can leave that. And here we can see now the, yeah, there's a discontinuity. We're going to close that discontinuity, and we seem to have a good flight plan. Execute. And the other thing I'm going to do now is go on to the climb. The transition altitude, by the way, is 5,000 here in Germany. And then we go to the cruise. Cruise is a little bit on the fast side, so I'm going to try and change this to 250 because not 250 is a bit not enough. And you know what? We're going to flight level 200, so let's put that back. Cruise level, that's important. 200. Flight level 200. And for the descent, we need to make sure that we are on flight level 50 for the transition altitude. Right. So that's the legs. It is calculating Ostis flight level 200 rose up 150. That's a constraint. So not too bad what you get as default here from Laminar. It works. It's okay. Right, so there isn't really that much more you can do. I think we've gone through all of those. There's a bit of a strange one. The RADNAV page brings you down here. So the VOR, the ILS is 110.30. No, that is definitely not what I would expect. Not sure why we have a green page down here. The ILS would be the 109.50. I am not sure if I need to do this. This wouldn't work anyway. Okay, so we just watch it. Yeah, because the ILS should be set automatically in theory normally. Since we don't seem to be able to get into the NavRat page here, that is a bit strange. What about here? Also not. And it shows different ones here. So we need to watch this and see what happens, because ultimately we need our RLS frequency and the course set. All right, I think that's it. There's not much more that we can do. Have I got my better pushback? Yes.
Bodenanbrücke. Bitte zeigen Sie mir zuerst, wo Sie hinwollen.
Yeah. It's fine.
Bodenanbrücke. Der Schlepper bringt sich in Position.
Okie dokie. So, we got the APU. We've got everything running. So what we're going to do now is we're going to switch off the packs so that we hopefully have enough pressure, and we're getting kind of ready for push and engine start. And you can see that we are relatively quickly through with everything, because this is still a default aircraft. There isn't that much you can do. There isn't that much. Okay, there's not that much system depth, so no point going through details of some implementatory things, because they don't exist. It's standard stuff, and it works. You can fly your route. You should be able to fly also with VATSIM and Iveo. So yeah, and you know, it's yeah, reflections. They don't really work for me. This is just the way it is. So the doors are closed. That's our wheels and stuff. Everything is okay. That's the temperature in there. We seem to have sufficient pressure. A bit of a jitter here on one of the axes. And I'm going to release the parking brake. And I'm activating auto start now, and we're going to start with number 4. And I should have probably put the engine page here. And can we see some spool up? I don't see any spool up, yeah. But that could be because it might expect, yeah. That's what it does. You need to press the button and you need to open the fuel basically together. And then the engine is starting. And we can see here. By the way, there's a 3D sound engine. That's one of the mods. And you can change the external and the internal master volume. You can see some values here. So it looks like number 4 is done. This is all very, very, very quick. Okay, so this is not overly realistic, but still. That's number 2. Yeah. Number 3. Now number 2. Ah, yeah. There's one thing that I realized. Number 4 and number 3 do not produce any sounds. So the way they've done it is that everything is linked to number 2 and number 1, like a 2-engine aircraft. And unfortunately, the other 2 engines don't produce much. So it's a little, I'm not sure, limitation that they have. So I should have probably started with 1 and 2, and then you wouldn't have realized that 3 and 4 are not producing any sounds. So we are done. Yeah, good. Yeah. And I have a feeling that the sounds are also incorrect from the side, but this might be my headphones. Parking brake is set.
Schlepper wird getrennt. Einen kleinen Moment bitte.
So we have 2 good starts, 4 good starts, 2 that we could hear, and I'm now going to go through the whole setup. Interestingly, the middle ones are still okay. So when I'm not sure how accurate that is. When we're in idle thrust, these lights go on. That's not overly correct, but it's okay. Okay, so APU generator. I'm going to take this off, turn the APU off.
Der Schlepper wurde entfernt, der Bypasspin ist gezogen, Freizeichen gibt's von der linken Seite. Einen angenehmen Flug. Tschüss.
Danke. And we're going to use, well, flaps 10. Going to put the auto brake into RTO mode. So this thing is down. Okay. And yeah, let's quickly set up the altitude, which is flight level 200. Going to turn on the flight directors both, and the initial speed here I'm guessing. I haven't calculated anything. I could have used Top Cut for that, but and for some reason I can't go below 166. Maybe that is a feature. Let's assume it's a feature. And I'm going to don't activate VNAV. Don't activate VNAV. So I'm activating LNAV because this seems to be a simplification. Right. Okay. I think we are done. We could turn on weather. By the way, if you have the terrain plugin running, I'm not sure if I do now. I think this also works. This freeware terrain plugin. Right. Taxi lights on. Parking brake off. And off we go. And it is an a little bit on the loud side, but there's a remedy for that. That's very nice. By the way, this Lufthansa livery is also something you can get from the org store. I can put the links in as usual. The sounds are, I think, better than the default, but yeah, they're freeware sounds. So it's as good as it can get when you run default and freeware aircraft. Yeah, a bit of a strange one here with the radios. I'm not sure where that comes from. Oops. So I'm running Explain, by the way, without any shaders today. So this is the default coloring. But Ultraweather XP is on, so the sky colors and stuff like that are modded by Ultraweather XP 251. Which might actually give us some issues when we look outside up from a certain altitude on. There is still this little thing with Ultraweather. Don't taxi too fast, you know, this is a pretty heavy aircraft. And large. Although the Dash 8 is definitely a bit larger. Outside sounds are actually quite good, I think. It has become very dark outside here after a lot of hot days in Munich, where I live. We finally start to get some change. There are some really dark clouds. Probably going to see some rain and thunderstorms today, which I think is good because temperatures did reach above 30s, although we were quite lucky here in Bavaria. We weren't that hot compared to other areas of Germany, but yeah, I'm glad that things are cooling down. It's also good for older people. Alright, so let's quickly stop here. Park brake on. And I'm going to arm the auto throttle. And we're going to turn on the lights. And the strobes. And yeah, that I think we are. Yeah, we're fine. Everything that needs to be set, I think, is set. I haven't used the. Oh yeah, one thing don't forget is use the trim and bring it roughly into the middle, like that. And I would suggest that yeah, the IS has been turned off. Display. Ah well, we shall see. There are these take-off buttons. I'm going to see if that works. So let's. Oh yeah, transponder. TARA or whatever that is. And you need a bit of a push here to get this thing rolling. Not sure if you can hear the sound. Hope it's not too low. Bring up the volume a little bit because yeah, this mod, one of the good things that it brought is actually the sound. Yeah. Okay, not perfect. Not perfect, but it should do. So, let me see. I am going to move up the throttle levers, and I'm going to push this. No, nothing happens. So let's bring them up about 1.7 EPR. That should do. That's now manual. I'm doing a manual thrust. I need to see if there is any way of calculating what your EPR setting should be and have the auto throttle hold this, but I think we will be fine. So V1, I think we can rotate already. Yeah, it almost comes on its own. Yeah, positive rate. Gear up. And I'm going to use VNAV now. So VNAV isn't really working that greatly, I would say. So flaps 5. Trying to follow the and flaps up. But I don't really like the way it handles the engines. And I'm going to activate now the autopilot. It has switched to 250 knots. And that's why we are accelerating so much. So, the display is a little bit all over the place. I hope that we are not... well, we'll see. Yeah, it looks like... it looks okay. The display is a bit strange, but I think it's doing its job. So, can we bring this down? Yeah, into the off position. The flaps are up. And we're climbing pretty heftily. 5,000, that is a little bit on the strong side. Yeah, let's turn this off. And let's bring this down to a more manageable . Yeah, we have actually exceeded our speed. And that's not so good. We're climbing. Oh my god, this, oh god, this is all over the place. So don't leave it to the automatic. You can forget that. We're almost at flight level 200. This was really quick. Okay, so we're finally stabilized a little bit. What we can do now is we can increase the speed to about 280. Well, I'm not going to use VNAV. VNAV is... no, that's not realistic. That's rocket mode. So I'm now in speed mode. I am on LNAV. It nicely follows the route. That is important. And things have stabilized somewhat now. So, well, no, what have I done? Whoops. I accidentally got to the trim key. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to define another view. One that I use, I call it the VFR view, kind of. So I think you've heard the sound. I'm going to bring down the volume a little bit again. So we seem to have jumped out of LNAV. Don't ask me why. You have to watch this take. And we've also jumped out of speed mode. When did that happen? Oh yeah, probably when I turned off the autopilot. That's the thing with default Laminar stuff. You cannot expect that it intelligently jumps back to where you were. So when I accidentally hit the trim button, the autopilot disconnected immediately and it turns off everything, as you have seen. And that's not nice, but that's the way it is. So since this is an extended range, oh look at that. No. Oh guys. Okay. Could not someone have come with a bit of alcohol and clean up these displays? Yeah. So yeah, we've overshot a little bit. Don't forget the bank angles. I think I'm going to set them to the maximum here. The bank angles are usually a little bit shallow on these aircraft. So this is an extended range mod. So they have modified parameters, engine parameters, and fuel probably, and so on, in order to make it a bit more realistic and to also allow it to fly an extended range. So I wonder what it will do when we reach Ostis in a moment, because Bamta is then over here. Quickly check here. Yeah, so we are flying towards Ostis at the moment, then comes Bamta and Rosab. We need to be at flight level 150. So I'm going to start the descent already. And I'm going to use vertical speed. With about 1500 feet per minute. Yeah, well meant, but really useless. This is useless. Well. But I think you see what I mean with these reflections. They just don't work for me. I don't really... Yeah, okay, this is this special corner. And it is a little bit challenged now, trying to get onto Rosab. And you should check from time to time that your autopilot modes are still what they should be. So all in all, so far, it is a nice mod. Oh god. And this behavior, by the way, has nothing to do with the mod. I think I know what it's trying to do. And nope, we're not going to let you. It is trying to intercept rows up, but the other way. Okay, so let's do it with a heading mode. Yeah. I had an idea that this might not quite work. And I'm going to go direct bingo. Execute. Where's our flight plan? This does not look good. We lost it. No, I think we haven't, but Bamta, we should be heading towards Bingo, but somehow this doesn't seem to really work. Where's our flight plan? Aha, here it's coming in, I think. Yeah, there it is. And I suppose you see what I mean, huh? Yeah, Bingo. So it is Bingo if you put the microscope on. So we need to give it a bit more here in that direction. And as soon as we have roughly the correct heading, we're going to activate the LNAV mode again. So that's normal actually. A lot of the FMCs and the default, they have a big problem with this sharp corner that we have here. But there's a reason why I leave these things in, because this is one of my test cases. I can see how well it does. Smaller aircraft are not as troubled here because they are more flexible when it comes to doing the turn and all that. But larger aircraft, due also to their relative sluggishness and so on, or when the speeds are very high, they really have a problem with this corner. They can't make it. So I think this is going to work now. LNAV? No. We are on LNAV, right? You know that I want to go to Bingo. Or maybe not. Okay, because it's no point being too close to a waypoint you want to intercept, I'm going to switch to stall, and I'm going to activate LNAV again, and this looks more like it. You need to really watch this, because do not expect that this default functionality will do everything as you're used to in the more expensive payware add-ons. It will not, as you can see. And what I'm doing here comes out of experience that I have now with these things. So I'm going to set the 5000, and I'm going to run a shallow descent. Yeah, you should actually work with descent, and the descent speed you should have somewhere between 1000 and 1800. 1800 is kind of a default descent rate with these aircraft. You can't really go overly wrong when you descend with about 1800 feet per minute. Yeah, the reflections don't work. I have to see if I can turn them off. I don't like that. That's pretty useless. It's well meant, but it just doesn't work for me. I forgot to start the clock. Let's do it now. Did it start the clock? Oh, we shall see. It's probably minutes. Okay. So how does it check out with the fuel? See? So fuel flow is 0.7 per engine. So in the descent we have used roughly 1 point something tons so far. Well, 2 tons. Where did I think I no, hang on, must have been more. This is this is kilograms and the setting is in pounds. So we had probably about under 30 tons of fuel. I didn't actually check. Was it 26, 27 tons? So I think we used about 3 tons or so. Hang on, but we should be able to... Is there the fuel thing? It should actually tell us what the engines have used. Let's check. No, it doesn't tell us. We have 8.1 tons in the center tank. I didn't turn on the center pumps. Turn those on. Now you can see the center pumps are used as well. So there is no descent indicator or anything like that. Yeah, we need to be at 5,000 here. Probably can go a little bit more shallow. With the vertical speed you can kind of control a little bit how you want to descend. You can calculate your descent from a distance and stuff, so if you do it a bit more seriously, you could actually calculate things. I don't think I turned off the lights. Yeah, so they're still on. That's okay, it's no problem. As I say, this is not a realistic flight. This is just a wee test. By the way, the reason why this is jumping is because another knob of my Cytec hardware is leaving me. It's a pity. Cytec is basically a good idea, but the quality is really appalling, I have to say. So the equipment doesn't hold much longer than 3-4 years. After at least, yeah, I think problems started with many of the Cytec equipment started after 2 years. Shortly after our warranty period is over, things started to unravel here, like switches and knobs and so yeah, don't think I'm going to invest in Cytec again. So I'm going to run my Cytec hardware until it's finished, and then I'm going to replace it with the likes of Honeycomb, for example, for the yoke, or some proper pedals, because I have already the second set of Cytec panels and pedals, and they both broke. This one broke too, shortly after the warranty period was over, and I'm running it now with rubber bands and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, it's not okay. The quality is not okay, at least not for me. I have never had really a good experience. The only thing that really worked well for all the time is the TPM. That's this Cessna-like thrust, these thrust levers that you have in a Cessna, the TPM. You can't buy it anymore, and it goes for really high prices on eBay. And I know why, because it's the only Cytec hardware that never has failed me. They have put in proper switches, proper potties and everything, so it's a much higher quality than any of the other Cytec stuff that I have. And yeah, so that will remain with me, but throttle levers and yoke and pedals eventually will be scrapped. So let's check. We are already below 8,000. I think we can leave this descent rate for the moment, or maybe we should go to about 1,000. I would think that we are going to have a VREF in and about, I don't know if it's calculating VREF descent. Let's have a look at the descent. No, it doesn't really give us anything regarding the landing. It's just not the kind of thing that this has here. There's no calculations, so I would think we're going to land with about 145, 150-ish, or something like that. I'm going to also reduce the speed now to 250. Let's actually go to 240. Okay, now let's check the radio. That's not good. That's not good. I'm going to get in trouble. I have a feeling that this is not going to work. So 109. Aha. 109.50 /080, and let's see if I can key not active. That is not good. Key not active. That is not good at all. So how am I going to get? Not good. Not good. Not good at all. So I'm going to try and trick now. I'm going to use my hardware, although it's not supposed to be with hardware. So I'm going to I've programmed the hardware, and I'm going to try and put in 109.50 on nav1. I hope that works. No, not 108, 109. 109.50. Yeah, it has worked. Unfortunately, we don't have the course, but I'm kind of hoping that we're going to... So I'm going to reduce speed again. We are almost on 5,000. That worked out quite well. We are below the glide slope, as you can, well, hardly see. Here's the glide slope, here's the localizer. And I'm now going to arm the approach. So you can see lock and GS very small here. Yeah, that worked out quite well. So we're now on 5,000. And I'm going to set the first stage of flap. So I'm hoping IMME DME 12, yeah. So let's reduce further. Yep, we are, I think we've captured the localizer, we've captured, so I'm going to go flaps 5. We're now following the glide slope. We're 11 miles. It doesn't help us with speeds and stuff, so you need to go either by some speed table that you have, or like I'm just taking it roughly out of experience. Using speed 180, flaps 10. And we are at 9 miles. Going to bring out the flap, the gear. And you can see what I mean. Yeah, it's you can hardly read it, but it actually shows you the flaps. The thing is, I can't go below 166, so this is a bit stupido. So flaps 20, I can't go down below. Oh, this is stupid. This is stupid. Okay, we're far too fast. I need to turn off the auto throttle, because we need to get down with the speed. Need to find out what that is. That's definitely not correct. No, I can't get below. And flaps 30. And flaps full. So, I wonder if Autoland works in this one. It has all 3 commands on. Localizer, glide slope. Well, I wouldn't bet that will work. Is that the... what is that there? Let me see. Aha, VREF, we are a little bit too slow. Unfortunately, I can't set the speed there, so I need to kind of wing it a little bit here. Oh yeah, auto brake. 1. So we seem to be nicely set up. I'm going to turn off the autopilot now. stray a little bit. And don't forget, this is a large aircraft. Ooh. Oh no 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 no! What are you doing? Okay, and we have somewhat touchdown. So I hope we are in reverse. No, we are not. Reverse hasn't worked. Why did reverse not work? Nope, that hasn't worked. So I needed to use the brakes. So that's not perfect. I need to check my button assignments. Oof. Yeah. So that end was a little bit not so good. It started to veer off to the right, and then as usual I'm trying to do small corrections, but they're not that small in X-Plane. It's just that little bit over sensitive, especially on the pitch, and that was enough for us to start floating. And the other thing I need to check is so we seem to have a problem. Hold thrust at reverse at max. So we should have had full reverse thrust. So that's stupid. That didn't work. Why did that not work? So okay, let's go to toggle reverse thrust. Let's see if that works. No, huh? So I don't get reverse. That is not good. And I should have probably brought this one out as well, although it doesn't want to stay out. Yeah, I don't know. So this doesn't seem to work either. So I don't seem to be able to get reverse thrust. That is yeah, there's something wrong. I need to try and fix this and check why that is, because obviously you want reverse thrust. Not sure if you need to do it in a different way here. Let's see. There is a reverse axis. Reverse. Let's try that. Aha. So you can't do it with a knob. You need to actually oh god. Okay. That's good to know. Next time. Okay. Right. I'm not going to bother taxiing back to the gate. So all right. What did this thing let me see that again. No. Okay. So yeah, it's the default Laminar. So we have some small issues. One of them is that somehow this radio nav page that doesn't work. Oh, hang on. Okay, let me see. I know, really now. Okay, that's how you do it. You go and you set it with your mouse. Good to know, although a little bit strange. That must be an addition. I can't remember this being default functionality, but maybe it is, and I've never used it. So yeah, okay. So we'll fix that one. We know it next time. And don't forget, don't use the VNAV. It's useless. And don't use it before you are actually in flight if you want to use it, because you've seen it immediately starts ramping up the engines and wanting to go places. Apart from that, the aircraft flies actually quite well. Okay, at the end, again, first time I'm flying this with these settings, it's normal that you may overdo things a little bit because you don't know how things react. So that's something that you will learn when you fly this aircraft more often. Yeah, so I think the sound works quite well, and also the extended range. So when I look at the fuel used, I think we are in a very reasonable area of fuel use here. Unfortunately, we can't see how much had been used. They don't seem to show this. Let's see. Fuel flow. Can we see it in the statistics? No. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, it feels okay. It also the values that I've seen here feel okay. You don't have really thrust management the way you're used to when you run something like the PMDG in FSX or Prepared, or even the SSG 747-800. You don't have that. So VNAV is of very limited use. Flight level change is okay. It's basically like an IS mode, so it tries to keep your current speed and pitch up in order to get to your altitude. I use vertical speed, as you have seen. It's the safest form of vertical navigation with this one here, and you need to calculate things like the top of descent. You will need to calculate that yourself, because there is something in here, but I'm not sure how accurate that is. And even if it's in here, apart from the display now being completely useless, yeah, it's you couldn't see it here anyway. It's just not the kind of display that is helpful to anybody the way it is here. Right. That's it. That's all I can show you. I think it's a great stuff. It's free, and yeah, have a look at it. Until next time.